Hey, good day, everyone. Hey, today I wanted to show you a video, create a video to show you how to analyze documents. Now, we've already gone over document A, and today what I want to do is help you to annotate document E, and then we'll also look at how to get some of this evidence out of the various documents and into the bucket so you can organize your evidence in terms of what evidence supports that Hammurabi's code was just and what evidence supports that Hammurabi's code was not just. And by just, we mean fair. Okay, so was his code fair? Were the laws fair? All right. And remember, we talked last time also, or in our Zoom, I think it was, about what we mean by fair, right? Was it fair to the accused, fair to the victim, and fair to the good of society? All right. So first, we're looking at document E, and we're going to come back to document E here in a few. But I want to go back and make sure that you caught a couple of things about these other documents as well. So first off, let's look at document C. Document C, you might have noticed, is all about family laws, right? It's all about family laws. So if you read all of these laws, you noticed that one is talking about if a married lady is caught with another man, it's a little adultery, little, nonsense going on there. What happens to them? Well, they get bound together and then they get tossed into, not that the two of them get bound together, but their arms and their legs get tied up and they get tossed into the water. They drown, they die. Some people might say that that's kind of harsh. Others might say that that's a pretty good punishment. If you look at Law 148, Law 148 says if a man has married a wife and a disease has seized her, and he's determined to marry a second wife, well, he can do that, but he's got to take care of that first wife that's already diseased. He can't cast her out of his home. He's got to keep her there and take care of her. And some people would say that, hey, this seems pretty fair. So you might write out here as you're annotating, you might write out here, this, maybe something as simple as this is a good thing. Okay. Now remember, Hammurabi says in his prologue that he's created these laws so that he can protect the weak and he can protect those that can't protect themselves, right? And this would be a really good example of how he has created a law, remember, dictated to him from Shamash, the god of justice. This is a really good example of how he is using a law to take care of somebody who can't take care of herself. Okay. Law 168 down here, if a man wants to disinherit his son, meaning he wants him to not get any of his stuff after the man dies, he has to go before a judge and tell that judge why he wants to cut his son off from all of his stuff when he dies. And the judge is going to ask about it. And if the son has not committed a grave misdemeanor, the father cannot disinherit his son. Again, another example of Hammurabi making sure that those who can't take care of themselves are taken care of by the law. And then the last one here, Law 195, if a son has struck his father, his hand shall be cut off. Some people might say that's kind of harsh. I wrote here that it's harsh. What you might write up here is maybe that this is Hammurabi, and I'm going to just put an H, Hammurabi taking care of the weak, right? So the son would be, because he's a child, perhaps, can't take care of himself. So he'd be considered weak or somebody who's not able to do that themselves. Okay, so these are some things I wanted you to notice. I also want you to notice that up here we always highlight the source, right? And it tells us that there are 282 laws in Hammurabi's code. The numbers below refer to their order on the slave. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one's document D. Again, we look at the source, we highlight it, excerpts from Hammurabi's code, which, as we know, was created around 754 BCE. All right, we have Law 21. If a robber breaks through the wall of a house, what's going to happen to him? He gets put to death, he gets pierced, or he gets hung through the hole that he created in the house. Some people might think that that's kind of harsh. Others might say, you try to rob my stuff, you should be put to death. Law 23, if the robber's not caught, then the man who got robbed can declare whatever he's been lost before a god, whatever has been lost before God, and the city and the mayor of the place where the guy lives shall replace whatever he has lost for him. Some people might go, wow, that's pretty fair. So I just wrote out here, wow, that seems fair. You can write whatever you want, but the point here is that you shouldn't just be willy-nilly randomly going through and going, hey, Mrs. G wants us to annotate this, so I'm just going to underline a bunch of stuff to make her think that I did my work. I want you actually to be writing things out in the margins as well, okay? Making connections in your head. Law 48, it says that the fields are flooded. Now you'll notice that all of these have to do with property law, right? These all have to do with somebody's property. This one's talking about being robbed, and then this one down here is talking about crops. Clearly farming was super important to the Babylonians. So this says that if a man borrowed money from someone to plant his fields, and then there's some incredible flood and he loses his crop, well, he doesn't have to pay that guy back. The creditor, that's the person he borrowed the money from, he doesn't have to pay that creditor back until the following year. Okay, moving down. Somebody might say that's pretty just. Yep, you might go, yeah, that's really fair. And then if you look at laws 54 and 55, if a man has opened up his trench, he's let out some water, and all of that water goes and floods his neighbor's yard, well, then that man must restore the crop that he's caused to be lost. Okay, so you might write that these laws are just. You might think they're not just. You decide, but this is just what I did, okay? Okay, now let's move on to the one that you need to do for me for today. We'll go through a lot of this together. Again, what's the very first thing we do? Well, we highlight the source. We have excerpts from Hammurabi's code. Surprise, surprise, right? Law 196. If a man has knocked out the eye of a free man, his eye shall be knocked out. If a man has knocked out the eye of a free man, his eye shall be knocked out. Now, in the other laws, they haven't said anything about free or slave or anything else, so this is kind of new. Law 199, if he has knocked out the eye of a slave, he shall pay half of his value. Wait, what? If he has knocked out the eye of a slave, he shall pay half of his value? What's going on here? One of the things we need to think about is who is the victim? Here, it seems that Hammurabi is saying in Law 196 that the victim is the actual man who got his eye knocked out. In 199, it seems as if the slave is not considered the victim, but the slave owner is considered the victim. So in this case, the slave owner gets to receive half of the value of that slave. Now, it depends on your perspective on this, if you think this is fair or not. If you're coming from the viewpoint of the property owner, then you're thinking, you know, that's fair to that property owner. Maybe the slave was worth a certain amount of money. Now his eye's knocked out. He's not worth as much anymore. So he's going to be worth half as much. But if you're coming from the standpoint of the slave, what compensation does he get? You know, not a thing, right? So I'm coming from the perspective of the slave, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not liking this too much. I'm gonna look at this and I'm gonna say, wait, free man, free man matters, but and that says matters. Yes, it does. But slave does not. Okay. You can write whatever you want there. And you always want to be thinking about, okay, so is this law fair? Is this law just? Is the punishment fair? Is the punishment just? And who is it fair or just to? The victim, the accused, all of society. Okay, Law 209. If a man strikes the daughter of a free man and causes her to lose the fruit of her womb, what in the world is that? The fruit of her womb, he shall pay 10 shekels of silver. Well, the fruit of her womb is a child. Okay, like a tree bears fruit, right? A woman bears a child. Okay. You shall pay 10 shekels of silver. So let's get this highlighted. If a man strikes the daughter of a free man, she loses the fruit of her womb, he shall pay 10 shekels of silver. There's a lot going on with this law right here. And the next law, Law 213, if he has struck the slave girl of a free man and causes her to lose the fruit of her womb, he shall pay 2 shekels of silver. What? So if he has struck the slave girl of a free man, causes her to lose her child, he shall pay 2 shekels of silver. So again, a lot is going on here. Again, who is the victim? So, and who's he paying the money to? This man. So if the man strikes the daughter of a free man and she loses her child, that's worth 10 shekels, but a slave child is worth 2 shekels. And then understand that it's if it's the daughter of a free man or the slave girl of a free man, this is all tied around the free man, right? This isn't this. What if it's a slave man? Well, remember we talked earlier. We said earlier that slaves didn't really matter to him, right? So slaves aren't going to have rights as they relate to these laws. Okay. So you might look at this and you might say it's the same crime committed against 2 different people with 2 different standings in society. Remember the pyramid that you did for the Persia grid, right? At the very bottom, you have slaves. So you have the same crime committed against 2 different groups of people from 2 different standings in society, and the punishments for the same crime is different. Now, remember when in our Zoom when we talked about the kids, the 15-year-old kid that stole from Best Buy and the 19-year-old kid that stole from Best Buy. Okay, these were 2 different perpetrators, 2 different accused doing the same thing to the same store, right? And they got different punishments based upon what upon their age, how many times they've done it before, etc. This is a different story, right? This is the same crime being committed against two different groups of people in the Babylonian society with different standings. Okay. Now, for Babylonia, that might have been pretty fair. You need to give your judgment. I'm not going to write anything here. I want you to write your own thing here. You say how you feel about the fairness of these two laws. Okay, so you write something down out in this area. All right, write something about how you feel about that. Okay, Law 215. If a surgeon has operated with a bronze lancet on the body of a free man and saves the man's life, he shall receive 10 shekels of silver. Okay, so a surgeon operates. It doesn't really seem to matter what he uses to operate, so I'm not going to highlight that. But if the surgeon operates on the body of a free man, saves the man's life, he receives 10 shekels of silver. Sounds pretty good. Save somebody's life, you get paid for it. Law 218, if a surgeon has operated with a bronze lancet on a free man, again, we're not talking about slaves apparently, for a serious injury and he causes his death, his hand shall be cut off. Okay, so surgeon operated on a free man, caused his death, his hand shall be cut off. All right. So in this case, once again, you want to look at it from your own point of view and consider, here's a doctor, a surgeon, who's doing his job. In this case, he gets paid for doing a good job. And if he doesn't do a good job, well, his hands get cut off, right? And then what? Then he can never be a surgeon again. So maybe in Hammurabi's mind, this was weeding out the bad doctors or the bad surgeons. You do a bad job at cut off your hands, you'll never do this again. So again, I would like you to make your own decision on whether or not you feel like this is fair. But I am going to write a little note out here in the margin. That the surgeon, or actually I'll write it up here, surgeon gets compensated or rewarded based on his performance. Okay. All right. Now, once again, go ahead and make your determination on if you think these laws are fair, if you think they're just. Okay. Remember, I can't stress this enough because I've had lots of confusion from kids. Just what they're asking. Well, just in terms of justice. Is the law just? Does it carry out justice, right? So is the law fair? Okay, you make that decision. So I told you then that we would be looking at bucketing also, right? So you'll notice that we have on this side, remember what you're going to be doing is you decide Or are they fair or are they not fair? Are they just or are they not just? And you're going to be making a claim. These are the claims right here. This is a claim. Yes, Hammurabi's code was just. No, Hammurabi's code was not just. And below, in this open spot, you are going to be writing down as much evidence as you can that would support that his code was just. Okay? And you always, always, always want to include the source. Over here, you're going to be writing right down here evidence that you can find in those documents, including the background essay, by the way, that would support that Hammurabi's code was not just. Okay? Again, with the source. And again, when we say just, we're talking about fair. Was it just? Was it fair? Okay. So in looking at just our last document, actually I'll go forward. I've already written down a lot of evidence, and I want you to notice a couple of things. I want you to notice that was Hammurabi's code just? I want you to notice that I've pulled evidence from the background essay, pulled evidence from document B, and I've pulled evidence from document C to prove that it was just. For not just, I found evidence in document C, a couple of pieces, and document E, all right? So I want you to pay attention to right here, okay? For laws 196 and 197, I wrote these down word for word. If a man has knocked out the eye of a free man, his eye shall be knocked out. Notice it's in quotes. And notice, so we have quotes because it comes directly from the document. And I have at the end what document it came from. Now I wrote this, if a man knocks out the eye of a free man, his eye shall be knocked out. But if he knocked out the eye of a slave, he shall pay half the value. To me, that's evidence to support that it was not just. To me, that's not fair. Again, quotes, quotes, document, document. This one over here, I did not write, I didn't put in quotes because I paraphrased it, okay? For law 148, if a man is married and his wife gets a disease, he can remarry, but he must take care of his first wife. Okay, I paraphrased that because it was kind of hard to put it, it made more sense to paraphrase it than to take direct quotes and put it in quotation marks. So I paraphrased. But all of these others, again, quotation mark, quotation mark. At the end, we have parentheses, parentheses, and that one came from the background essay. Now look, is it okay with me? I mean, clearly I'm putting all of this evidence on the video that you could obviously pause and you could write all this down word for word on your buckets like I did. However, there's a lot more evidence than what I have down here, you guys. There's a ton more. And if you send me a picture of your buckets and they look exactly like mine, I'm not going to be very pleased with that because that'll tell me that you aren't actually learning from this. You're just copying me. Anybody can copy. That's not what this is about. Okay. So the next thing you should do when we get off of this video is you should go back over all of your documents. I've gotten pictures of some of your documents and many of you answered the questions at the bottom, but you did not annotate. You need to go back and annotate, okay? I want to see your answers, your comments in the margins. I want to see your questions. I want to see you circle words that you don't know, all right? Draw pictures, not like of your cat. I don't mean like that, but draw pictures. Maybe if that helps you to understand better, maybe show one guy gouging out another guy's eyeball. Well, man, I don't know if that's such a bright idea, but maybe that helps you. So do whatever you need to do to make these documents more understandable for you. All right. If you have questions, shoot me an email. Otherwise, I believe that's it. Except the next thing that we are going to be doing is next week, we'll be looking at the organization piece. That blue sheet, I believe it's blue. No, it's pink. The pink sheet. That's the essay organizer. Let me grab it for you. The paragraph outline looks like this. That's what we'll be working on next week. If you want to get a head start, you can certainly do that. All right. Have an amazing weekend, y'all. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Adios. Love you, miss you already.